Hello, everyone. Yeah, there we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Andrew Marzoni, and I'm a PhD candidate in the English department here at the university. And I'm also one of the coordinators of the Theory Reading Group, which was founded in 2010 by graduate students in the English department. We began as an informal reading group, meeting monthly to discuss contemporary and canonical texts from the constellation of work known as theory. Since that time, we have expanded our activities to include a semesterly speaker series that, paired with meetings to discuss readings, constitutes an informal seminar on issues in contemporary thought. In the past, we've invited speakers from across the globe, including Laura Hingehold, Levi Bryant, John Pertevi, Ray Brossier, Claire Colebrook, Patricia Clabb, Karina Cordella, Nicholas Royal, and Melissa Littlefield to the University of Minnesota. This evening, I'm very honored to add François Laruelle to that list. If you're interested in attending future Theory Reading Group meetings and events, please send an email to theory@umn.edu, and we will be sure to add you to our contact list. Tonight's lecture is made possible by the Theory Reading Group, the 21st Century Research Group, the Department of French and Italian, Student Activities Grants Initiatives, GAPSA, Midway Contemporary Art, and Univocal Publishing. We're especially grateful to the Weisman Art Museum for donating the space for the lecture. Finally, if you'd like to purchase a copy of Laruelle's new book, Photo Fiction, A Non-Standard Aesthetics, Univocal has copies for sale just outside the doors. I would like to now introduce Joe Hughes, who's a lecturer in the Department of English and author of, most recently, Philosophy After Deleuze. Thank you.
Can I not use this? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, because it freaks me out.
Okay.
Here, I'll give this to you. So I'm delighted to introduce tonight, and honored to introduce François Laruelle, Emeritus Professor at the University of Paris, Nanterre, La Défense, lecturer at Collège International de Philosophie. François Laruelle is the author of over 20 books. I'm tempted to read the entire list because the variety of titles alone testifies to the magnitude of his philosophical project. But I'll limit myself to just a couple which have been published in English over the past 2 years, or some which are about to be published in English. The Principles of Non-Philosophy, Future Christ, A Lesson in Heresy, From Decision to Heresy, Philosophies of Difference, The Non-Philosophy Project, The Concept of Non-Photography, Anti-Badiou, The Introduction of Maoism into Philosophy, Introduction to Non-Marxism, Struggle and Utopia at the End Times of Philosophy, and Photo Fiction, most recently, A Non-Standard Aesthetics, which, as Andrew mentioned, is for sale in the back of the room. This list testifies to the enormity of his philosophical project. And across these texts, Laruelle has developed one of the most original philosophical projects today. It's a project grounded in a rigorous and clear-eyed account of the position from which the philosopher speaks, of the ways in which the decisions of philosophy structure and determine its field in advance. Laruelle pursues with admirable creativity a non-standard philosophical discourse, one which uses philosophy as a material, which conjugates philosophy with other discourses, and which constantly searches for new models of thought, drawn from religion, the arts, quantum mechanics. His lecture tonight, The Generic Orientation of Non-Standard Aesthetics, is exemplary in this regard. There are several practical matters which I have to attend to first. First, if you have not picked up or do not have a copy of the lecture, there are still copies available on empty seats. There's a translated copy of the lecture. Does anybody need one? Excellent. Second, we should have plenty of time after the talk for questions. And to facilitate this process, Drew Burke, translator and editor at Univocal Publishing, and Christophe Walromana, professor in French and Italian at the University of Minnesota, will translate the questions and the answers back and forth. Andrew Marzoni will have a microphone and he'll pass it around the audience, so please use the microphone so that we can get it properly recorded. And finally then, I have to reiterate some of the thank yous, because this event could not have taken place without the help and support of an enormous number of people. I'd like to thank in particular the Theory Reading Group, and Andrew Marzoni in particular for organizing much of this event. The Department of French and Italian Christophe and Dan Brewer here for their constant support and enthusiastic encouragement from the very beginning. The Student and Activities Grants Initiatives, GAPSA, Midway Contemporary Art, Drew Burke and Jason Wagner at Univocal Publishing, who dedicated enormous amounts of time and resources in order for this to happen. And finally, thank all of you for coming out tonight. Laruelle, thank you very much. Please help me in welcoming François Laruelle.
Donc je vais d'abord vous remercier et dire quelques phrases en français.
So, first I want to thank you and say several phrases in French
Avant de me risquer à parler anglais.
before I risk speaking in English.
D'abord, je tiens à remercier l'association ou le groupe des étudiants
He,
qui m'ont invité.
he first wants to thank the Theory Reading Group who had the initiative for inviting him.
Mes traducteurs, enfin mon traducteur, disons, principal, Drew Burke, pour les textes de ce soir.
I want to thank my principal translator, Drew Burke, for the text.
Les éditeurs, c'est fondamental, les éditeurs, Jason Wagner, Drew Burke.
And of course the editors of the books, Jason Wagner and Drew Burke.
Alors, j'ai beaucoup hésité à faire ma conférence en anglais, à la lire en anglais.
So I really hesitated about trying to read my lecture in English.
Devant ce texte, je suis un peu comme un enfant de l'école maternelle
And with this text in English, I'm a little bit like a student in primary school
qui apprend à lire très difficilement
who's learning to read, and it's taking him quite a bit of time
un texte en langue étrangère.
in a foreign language.
Donc je vous prie d'excuser ma lecture hésitante.
So I ask you to excuse and apologize for me when I read this text in a sort of hesitating manner.
Mon accent de Frenchie,
My Frenchy accent, got that?
et alors juste une chose, il peut m'arriver de sauter un paragraphe.
Okay, so I should explain as you follow along while I'm reading. There'll be a couple times where I might skip ahead and skip a paragraph that I don't think is maybe perhaps necessary.
Bien, je vais donc affronter le vide.
So I'm going to try, of course, to take on the void.
Alors, the problem to be solved. If you don't understand, you say, and Drew Burke continue.
Yeah, that's right.
In English.
Okay.
Aesthetics, in particular, since Hegel, has been philosophy's unalleged domination of art. Philosophy claims to disengage the sense, the truth, and the destination of art, and all this after the event of art's supposed death. In a less authoritarian and less legislative mode, philosophy describes the figures of art, its epochs, its styles, and the system of its forms in accordance with art's own norms. Art, for its part, resists this enterprise and rebels. You support?
Yeah. Following me?
I propose another solution, which, without abandoning aesthetics, no longer grants it this domination of the work by philosophical categories, but which limits aesthetics by transforming it. It is a matter of substituting for the conflict between art and philosophy, a conjugation of their methods on the basis of a scientific model. We will thus attempt to explore the following matrix: art and philosophy, non-aesthetics, non-aesthetics or non-standard aesthetic is a reciprocal determination of art and philosophy, but indexed to a universal algebraic coefficient present in quantum physics, the imaginary number, thus demanding the interpretation of their conjugation not in terms of concept or macroscopic objects, but in terms of vectors. This ontovectorialization of aesthetics deprives aesthetics and its sufficiency with respect to art, but at the same time transforms it into a fiction which is itself artistic. It is what is called a generic extension of art to aesthetics, the moment at which thought itself becomes a form of art. In a new use of their mimetic rivalry, suspending finally their traditional conflictuality for a common work, a new genre. This reciprocal liberation of art and thought via the underdetermination of their specific techniques has already been tested on the concept of photography, and from there on the concept of photofiction, ultimately perhaps leading to the creation of a music fiction. Bon, extending the first investigation of the concept of non-photography. Alors, first, standard and non-standard. I call standard those aesthetics whose principles, first, are recognized and accepted across a number of variations by institutional and academic communities, and which thus constitute the object of confirmed knowledges. Second, whose principles define either a foundation for art or a philosophical description of art, or more generally, a normality and a normativity, which is to say, a determinism of the reciprocal causality of art and of philosophy. It poses well-known questions of the type: what is art? What is the essence of art? What can art do?